to 7 years. The one your grandmother ran for 25 years without a single service call? That design still exists. Manufacturers just stopped putting it front and center on the showroom floor. I have watched folks spend $1,500, $2,000, even $25 only to be calling a repair technician 18 months later. Ice makers that freeze solid, compressors that quit, control boards that fail because a bit of humidity crept into a place it should not have gone. I have seen this pattern repeat so many times into the store thinking they were buying quality. The salesperson said all the right things. The finish was beautiful. The water dispenser had a filter indicator light, and none of that saved them from a $400 off. Here is what this video is going to do. I am going to tell you plainly which 2 refrigerator configurations I believe are actually worth buying, the exact reasons I landed on those 2, what the red flags are on every other style currently being pushed hard in stores, and how to walk into a showroom knowing more than the person, but a real direction. If you want to go deeper than a single video allows, I put together a guide that goes further on everything we cover here. Open the camera app on your phone right now, point it at the pinned up there for the entire video, so there is no need to stop what you are doing. Anytime you want the fuller breakdown, just grab your phone and scan it. Now let us get into it. Let me start with the problem, because understanding the problem is what makes the answer make sense. An evaporator coil, a thermostat, and a fan or 2. That is really about it. A competent appliance tech could diagnose and fix almost any issue with a basic set of tools down. People put them in the garage as a second unit and kept running them for another decade. Then, starting roughly in the late 1990s and accelerating hard through the 2000s and 2010s, the industry shifted. Manufacturers discovered that more features meant higher price tags and stronger sales floors. French door designs with bottom freezers became the prestige configuration. Built-in ice makers, water and ice dispensers became standard on mid-range models. Touch screens appeared. Wi-Fi connectivity arrived. Dual evaporator systems, flex zones, convertible drawers. The list kept growing. I am not saying none of those things have value. Some do, for some people. What I am saying is that every single one of those additions is also a new failure point, and the industry is more profitable than one that runs for 25. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is just the economics of appliance manufacturing. When you understand that, the advice I am about to give you starts to make a lot more sense. Now, let me talk about the 2 configurations I believe are genuinely worth buying. The first one is going to surprise some of you. The second one is a little more flexible, but it comes with specific because that list is longer than the buy list, and knowing it cold will protect you. The first refrigerator worth buying is the top freezer configuration. I know. It does not look exciting. It does not photograph beautifully for a kitchen renovation reveal. Your neighbor probably just replaced one with a big French door model and is very happy about it. I am going to ask you to set all of that aside for a moment and think about what a refrigerator actually needs to do. A refrigerator needs to keep food cold reliably for a very long time without breaking down. That is the whole job. Everything else is extra. And on that single measure, reliability over time, with the fewest repairs, the top freezer design wins. It has won for decades. Appliance repair technicians have said it for years. Consumer reliability surveys, when they actually break down results by configuration rather than just brand, consistently show top freezer models at or near the ice maker in the freezer door to freeze up and overflow. There is no elaborate French door hinge mechanism to wear out. There is no bottom freezer drawer with a track that cracks. The cooling system is simpler, which means it runs more efficiently and has fewer ways to fail. I want to be honest about the brands here, because configuration alone does not tell the whole story. In my experience watching what comes back for repairs, I keep seeing the same names, Whirlpool and Maytag, which are made by the same parent company, have consistently produced top freezer models that hold up. They are not glamorous. The interiors are practical rather than beautiful. The price points on their basic top freezer models are often well below $1,000, sometimes considerably below. And they run. I am not being paid to say that. Evaluate specific models, what the specs actually mean, what to look past, and what questions to ask. That is exactly the kind of detail the guide covers. Open your phone's camera app, point it at that QR code still sitting in the top right corner of your screen, and scan it for the fuller breakdown. Now I know some of you are thinking, a top freezer in a modern kitchen is going to look out of place, or your situation genuinely needs something different. Maybe you have a household with a lot of people, or accessibility is a real factor, because bending down to a bottom freezer is hard on your back or your knees. Those are legitimate concerns. That is exactly why I said there are two configurations worth buying, not one. The second configuration I am willing to recommend is the side-by-side, and I want to be specific about why. A side-by-side splits the refrigerator and freezer vertically, which means both sections are full height and reachable without bending. For anyone who has trouble getting down low, and that becomes more people than want to admit it as the years go by, that is a real practical advantage. The doors are narrower, which matters if your kitchen has limited clearance in front of the appliance. And the mechanical simplicity, while not quite as clean as a basic top freezer, is still considerably better than a French door model with a bottom freezer drawer. Here is my honest condition on side-by-sides though. Skip the ice and water through the door dispenser if you possibly can. I know that sounds harsh. I know half the reason people want a side-by-side is that dispenser. But the dispenser is one of the most common repair headaches on the whole appliance. The water line can freeze in the door. The ice chute can jam. The dispenser actuator wears out. The flap seal lets warm air in and raises humidity inside the freezer compartment. If you can find a side-by-side without the through-door dispenser, or if you can genuinely commit to getting a separate countertop ice maker instead, your repair history over the next 15 years is going to look a lot better. If the dispenser is non-negotiable for your household, at least choose a brand with a proven service record and a repair network in your area. Parts availability matters more than most people realize until the day they need a part and find out it is discontinued or backordered for 3 months. Now let me get to the configurations I would steer you away from, because this is where I think a lot of people get hurt financially. The French door bottom freezer refrigerator is the dominant style on showroom floors right now, and in my honest opinion, it is also the configuration with the worst long-term reliability record of anything currently being sold at scale. Here is the problem in plain terms. The French door design typically places the ice maker in the top refrigerator section or in the freezer drawer below. The freezer drawer itself is a drawer. It slides in and out on tracks and a rail system. Over time, those tracks wear. The gasket around the drawer degrades, and the drawer itself can crack under the weight of frozen food. The ice maker in these units, particularly in the models that put it inside the refrigerator section to create a so-called craft ice or indoor ice experience, is one of the most repair-prone components in any modern appliance. And then there is the compressor situation with certain brands. I want to be careful here because I do not want to state things I cannot fully stand behind. But I will say this plainly, there has been well-documented, widely reported trouble with linear compressors in certain refrigerator lines sold under major brand names over the past decade or so. If you do any research before you buy, look specifically at compressor reliability and whether a class action or extended warranty situation has ever been associated with a particular line. That research will point you in a clear direction. The brands I see come through for repair most often in the French door category are the ones that have leaned hardest into complex features. The more the marketing emphasizes the technology, the more skeptical I get. It is not that the engineers are not smart. It is that complexity in a refrigerator almost never serves the person who owns it. It serves the sales floor and the service department. I want to address something around the 2/3 mark of this video that I promised earlier I would come back to. The question of counter-depth refrigerators. A lot of folks in the 50 and over crowd are renovating kitchens or moving into a new place and want a refrigerator that sits flush with the cabinetry. Counter-depth models are sold heavily on that appeal. Here is what they do not always tell you. Counter-depth refrigerators are shallower, which means they hold less food for the same external footprint. You are paying more, often significantly more, for less internal capacity. The flush look is real, and it is genuinely attractive. But if food storage capacity matters to your household, and for most households it does, you are making a real trade-off. If the flush look is the priority, the most affordable and reliable way to achieve it is often a standard depth top freezer or side-by-side tucked into a cabinet surround built around it, rather than paying a premium for a counter-depth model that costs more and carries the same reliability risks as whatever configuration it comes in. If you want to go further on all of this, the counter-depth question, the configuration trade-offs, how to think through what actually fits your kitchen and your household, that is where the guide comes in. Open your phone's camera app, point it at the QR code in the top right corner of your screen, and scan it. That is the place for the kind of detail a single video can only scratch the surface of. Let me talk for a moment about how to buy, because even with the right configuration in mind, the buying process has its own traps. The first thing I would tell you is to ignore the salesperson's pitch about extended warranties at the point of sale. I am not saying never buy an extended warranty. I am saying the one being sold to you on the floor of an appliance store at the moment of purchase is almost always the most expensive version of that protection available. If you want an extended warranty, and for a major appliance, there is a reasonable argument for one, shop for it separately after you get home. Third-party appliance warranty companies exist, and you will often find better terms at a lower cost than what the showroom was offering. The second thing I would tell you is to check parts availability before you buy. Call a local appliance repair shop, not the manufacturer's hotline, an actual independent local tech, and ask them how they feel about working on the brand and model you are considering. Ask if parts are reasonably available. Ask if it is something they see a lot of and feel comfortable with. An independent tech has no incentive to sell you anything. Their opinion is worth more than most of what you will read in a sponsored review. The third thing, size matters less than most people think going in. A refrigerator that is too large for your household runs less efficiently because it is never fully loaded, and thermal mass actually helps a refrigerator maintain temperature. A household of two does not need a 30 cubic foot behemoth. A mid-size top freezer or a standard side-by-side will often serve better and cost less to run. On running costs, I am not going to throw precise energy figures at you because those vary with usage, local electricity rates, and the specific model. What I will say is that older, simpler refrigerators are often meaningfully more energy efficient than you might expect when compared to feature-loaded newer models, partly because simpler compressor systems and fewer electronic loads add up over time. Check the Energy Star label and look at the estimated annual energy cost printed on the yellow Energy Guide sticker. That is real, practical information, and it is right there on the appliance before you buy. I also want to say something about installation and placement that does not get enough attention. A refrigerator needs clearance on the sides and the back for air circulation. When a refrigerator is pushed tight against a wall or tucked into a cabinet with no room to breathe, the compressor works harder, and the whole system runs hotter than it should. That shortens the life of the appliance meaningfully. Leave at least an inch on the sides and 2 to 3 inches at the back. It sounds small, but the difference in compressor load over 15 years is real. Let me bring all of this together. The two configurations worth buying are the top freezer and, with the conditions I named, the side-by-side. The top freezer is the most reliable and the most affordable. The side-by-side serves folks who need full-height access on both sides and is still a reasonably sound mechanical choice if you can forego or live without the through-door dispenser. Every other configuration currently being sold, French door, bottom freezer drawer, counter-depth French door, smart screen models, carries meaningfully more complexity and a meaningfully worse reliability record. The industry will not tell you this because there is no money in steering you toward the simpler, cheaper, longer-lasting option. The showroom makes more margin on the French door with the Craft ice maker. The service department makes more on the callbacks. The simple top freezer sitting quietly in the back corner of the store does not make anyone rich. But it keeps your food cold for 20 years and lets you spend your money on something that actually matters to you. This week, if you are in the market for a refrigerator, go look at the top freezer section of any showroom and notice how small it is relative to the floor space given to French door models. That ratio tells you everything about how the business works. This month, if you have time, call a local independent appliance repair tech and ask them one question: what do you wish more of your customers knew before they bought a refrigerator? The answer will sound a lot like this video. Before I let you go, if you want to take what we covered here and go deeper, the fuller picture, the specific questions to bring with you to the store, the details this video can only touch on, then open the camera app on your phone, point it at the QR code in the top right corner of the screen, and scan it. The guide is there waiting for you, and it is the kind of resource that can genuinely change how you approach this purchase. I would love to know your experience with refrigerators. Drop a comment below. Have you had a French door model that held up beautifully for 15 years, or did you have the repair experience I described? Have you got a top freezer that has been running quietly since before your kids were grown? Real experience from real people who have lived with these machines is worth more than any review I could point you to. The next video I am working on goes into dishwashers, and the honest answer there is going to surprise you just as much as this one. If you found this useful, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss it. I appreciate you spending your time here, and I will see you in the next one.